Oh, it's a major inning. Might be a pizza roll in there for all.
Now I'm imagining him shirt up, being able to play games like that.
I have great confidence that happens on the reg. Speaking of dumbasses.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of 1980s Now, a weekly examination of 1980s pop culture and its influence. Today, my name's Will, and joining me, as always, are my friends and co-hosts, Kat and John. Hey, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hey there. How's it going?
Good. And hey, don't forget, because like I've been forgetting to say it, but I haven't been forgetting to listen, as I'm telling you now. Don't forget to listen to John on his very own podcast, Grenix Joan Up. Or
perhaps it's best you leave it out.
Don't Google that. Hang on.
Google it incognito if you do.
That's the bizarro world. No. Gen X grown. I had to pause and think about it. Gen X grown up because I wanted to say grown up Gen X, but there probably is a podcast
even
called that.
Probably by
grown
now.
Up Gen X?
By now.
Or growing up Gen X?
Some copycat. Yeah.
Every permutation
of my style.
Name is something taken. Yeah. Anyway.
Hey. It's an interpolation.
Yeah. Hey, on today's show, we're going to defend. Maybe I shouldn't say defend. She needs no defense. Let me put this just to be clear. This person does not need any defending. So maybe that's not the proper way of saying it. Yes.
I don't need any
defend her style because someone on the show was attacking her style. I'm not gonna say who it was, but I'm gonna stand up for her on this episode.
Wait, was it you?
Someone said she was destroying beauty standards.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I won't say which one of it as it was.
Someone.
That person even said, "Look at her," and that was awful. And I'm gonna stand up for her this episode.
It was funny. Somebody did tell me it was mean, but they also knew you were joking.
I have to guess who that might be.
You can take a guess.
I thought they might think that. Of course I didn't mean it.
I knew that. And that's why I was laughing. Yep.
Well, all right.
I even forgot what you were talking about right now.
I'm going to cut all this. I'm going to
be reminded of it.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of John X Joan Up. John X Joan Up might be available. All right. Hey, on today's show of 1980s Now, we are going to, for better or worse, defend. Whatever. It's fine. She needs no defense from us, but that's how I feel. I feel protective of the film producer that most influenced movies in the 1980s and since. And as a result, I would say most influenced us in that media, our youths. Because we'll talk about it later, but she produced in one way or another as an associate or executive producer.
Is this a quiz? You still haven't said who it is. It's like this built up. I'm still waiting to see if it's actually Kat.
Oh, you're right. That wasn't you. Kathleen Kennedy. I'm talking about Kathleen.
Yeah, we got there.
I was going to land on that.
It's a different Kathleen. It's a Kat.
Yes.
Got it.
They call her Kathy, actually, but yes. Kathleen Kennedy, who, we'll talk about it. She's been involved as an associate producer, executive producer over, I don't know, something like two dozen, maybe, I have a number here, I don't know, 18 films or something in the 1980s alone. And we'll talk about some of them that, I think sort of track maybe our sort of development in our youth during that decade. But since she took over Lucasfilm, she's been under fire by a certain aspect, a certain dark corner of the fandom and
a certain aspect.
Yes. And the recent Star Wars celebration in London this last week, I wouldn't say brought them back out again because they're always out. Just gave them more bullshit content to produce, really. Anyway, I want to counter programming.
She might not need defending, but it probably doesn't hurt for her to feel like she has friends. So here we are.
Yeah. Well,
it might make Will feel better that he did defend. So I think, as long as there's some good to come out of it.
Well, I'm reminded of, I don't know what we talked about before, something. I know what it was when we talked about Willow that time. We got some feedback saying, why are we bringing this up if we don't want anybody to notice it, basically. But we need to, I feel like just having, sort of that negative stuff out there, the toxic bullshit, garbage, and people are responding to it. But if we don't do our part as a, pop culture podcast that talks about 1980s media, what are we really doing here? Do we, are we just merely Gen X Joan-ups and not the fully developed Gen X grown-ups that we can be?
What is that? It's very eloquent, but the thing, the only thing required for evil to be pervasive is for good people to not say anything.
Right.
So,
yes.
All right. Yeah.
I have an overinflated sense of justice too. I know this. It takes very little for me to be like, something needs to be done about this. And usually for me, it's I don't do anything. I'm just like, it's fine. Or I'm just like in a rage because all the other ones have gathered. The ones that I was like sort of let go. I stuffed down. All right.
So what are we getting this time? Is this going to be a rage?
It's going to be a mix of highs and lows, I think.
Okay. All right.
We'll see. I don't know. When I just think about these people, I start getting angry again. Anyway, before that.
Sounds like you're picking your battles.
Yes, you're right. It's strategic. Hey, before that, we're going to review current news related to 1980s media, including Diddy is still paying Sting. And even though that sounds like something from one of the Nintendo 64 video games, it's not. But speaking of that, however, we'll also be speaking about how Super Mario Super Smash Bros. The box office. Stranger Things get the Saturday morning treatment. An indie series was canceled while Indie's sequel released a trailer.
Yep. Well, that's a lot of news.
Yeah. I think,
it's a lot of cool stuff.
I think there was maybe a contraction missing from that. Anyway, before that, a brief announcement. Join us this Wednesday, April 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern on either Facebook Live or YouTube. We're going to be recording our next podcast episode, and you can watch us live on either of those platforms. And more than that, you can participate in the show. Yeah. Send us your comments, your opinions, your thoughts, your feelings, and we will share them live on the air while we record. And then you'll hear them when the episode gets published the following Monday. And this topic, John, Kat, don't listen to this. The topic is going to be the 10 TV show themes that were also hits, but I'm going to put it in the form of a game to my co-hosts and see if they can identify them from a series of clues and that sort of thing. And you'll be able to guess too in the comments. Okay, so join us this Wednesday, April 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Live or YouTube and get in on the fun. Okay. All right, enough of that. All right, hey, let's get caught up on 1980s news. So, look, speaking of sampling, which we did, just last week, and we spoke with Luxury about this I don't know if this made it to the interview. If not, I've got to share. John peppered the episode with a healthy amount of hit-its, and Kat joined in at some point. Yeah. I think I actually had to cut out a few hit-its, by the way. There was just one too many.
I'll give you a few extras this time then. That's fine.
Hit it.
Lottie-dottie. That's all right. That's fine.
But and I don't know if this, I know Luxury and I talked about this, and if it didn't make the final interview, I'll be sure and share it. But in 2018 conversation that Sting had with the Breakfast Club recently resurfaced again, and it confirmed that, in the video, it confirms that Diddy paid him $2,000 per day for, quote, the rest of his life. That's what Sting said, end quote, for sampling the Police frontman's Every Breath You Take without Sting's permission. So as Luxury and I talked about, and and if you don't certainly guess by this, is that song that Puff Daddy, he was then known as Puff Daddy in 1997 when he sampled, and it was shortly after Notorious B.I.G. had passed, was murdered. He recorded I'll Be Missing You and just straight up, whole cloth took Police's Every Breath You Take. He didn't ask anybody. He just made it.
And what point in the 90s was that?
97.
97. Okay.
So we're in an era at that point where you know better. As a musician, you know better.
I was thinking maybe.
Right. And this is someone who's been in the industry long enough to rename himself twice. I mean, he's not new to this. He knows. He knows what he's supposed to be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. He was at least Sean, and then he became Puffy. So he was on a second name by then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a few days ago on April 5th, the hip-hop mogul, who's now known as Diddy, shared the 2018 interview on Twitter with a comment that seemed to correct the amount. He wrote, quote, nope, $5K a day. Love to my brother, end quote. Well, 2 days later, however, Diddy tweeted an actual correction, this time writing, quote, I want y'all to understand I was joking. It's called being facetious. Well, the way he writes it with a capital F, it almost looks like facious. But facetious. Me and Sting have been friends for a long time. He never charged me $3K or $5K a day for Missing You. He probably makes more than $5K a day from one of the biggest songs in history. And I don't, end quote. And I don't remember the statistics, but yeah, Sting is just that song alone. I think it's like the most played single, like I think Luxury was saying this. It's like the most played single like of all time or something. Continues to be a ridiculous moneymaker for Sting alone. Just that.
I like that song, but it's instantly recognizable. But wow, that's the most played single?
And I should have looked it up, or at least listened to my interview with Luxury. But he may also now get 100% of Puffy's royalties from Missing You as well.
So there's another $1.50.
Yeah.
I wonder if celebrities understand how tone deaf it is to be talking to the general populace about whether or not they're paying one another $3,000 or $5,000 a day for the rights to do something. I'm like,
good point, John.
I mean, you know, Sting could send a day's worth of profits my way and I'm taking care of for the month, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No average person is like, I'm very curious to know how many thousands of dollars you pay. Nobody gives a damn.
Right.
Because they're not getting that money. Puff Sean P. Diddy, whatever he's called now, I think. I think he likes talking about how affluent he is and he has to pay so many people so much money to self-aggrandize. Right. Really is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Because you hear Sting waving that flag.
And technically he's not paying anything. What happens is if the deal is that he gets whatever percentage of the royalties up to 100%, you know, the publisher is cutting him that money theoretically or whatever. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
But speaking of that, while it's unclear how much Diddy has quote unquote paid Sting over the years, in a 2003 interview with Rolling Stone, Sting had said he had taken enough money from the rapper to put some of his 6 kids through college.
Sure.
He said, quote, those guys just take your shit, put it on a record, and deal with the legality later, end quote.
All right.
It's like, let's see if anybody hears this and notices.
Oh, yeah. I saw a blip in an article that it was Elton John who brought it to Sting's attention. Like, wait till you hear this song.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You're going to be rich or richer.
Yes.
You're a millionaire twice over,
it was something like that.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And you would think, look, this is 97. So again, in the 80s, we didn't know what we're doing. Towards the beginning of the 90s, we started having these landmark court cases that started settling some of these areas. Okay, but in 2018, you should definitely know better because, as we mentioned, as of in the 90s, the deal, Puff Daddy had to cut Sting in on the deal for just ripping off his song. Well, the late Juice WRLD sampled Sting's Shape of My Heart, which is a song from the 90s, on his 2018 song, Lucid Dreams, which peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and sold over 10 million units in the U.S. alone. Sting is said to own 85% of that song because of the sample, according to a tweet from the song's producer who said, fuck Sting and his whole team. After taking 85% of Lucid Dreams for interpolating Shape of My Heart, not even sampling, look, he's drawing the distinction, Cat, interpolating and sampling.
Oh, I see.
He threatened to take us to court for trying to get any percentage. Sting told Billboard in 2018 that the money he's made from Lucid Dreams will put his grandkids through college.
Did they ask permission?
No, that again, it was, I think that was.
So that was the issue,
problem,
that they didn't.
Yeah. Congratulations, Gordon.
He really cares about education. I mean, ever since he wrote that, Don't Stand So Close to Me, he was singing about teachers.
Yeah.
Hey, another 1980s news, Bowser crushed at the box office. Or crushed the box office? Let's say crushed the box office. So it looks like a pretty good year so far for movies. Since March of 2023, Hollywood's been, releasing films that folks have been actually eager to see, which, it's been kind of hot or cold in the last few years since the
pandemic. The rebound.
Yeah, it feels that way. Tom Cruise saved the movie industry. We know that. He brought it back.
So I've heard.
Yeah.
But as a result, we've had a number of box office records broken. Last month was huge for Creed 3, Scream 6, and John Wick 4, setting new highs for within their own franchises. Along those lines, the latest adaptation of Super Mario Brothers far outgrossed the original from 1993.
Wow.
That's quite a reach. Well done.
There you go. Consistent. Well, what's more impressive than that is that it had one of the biggest box office openings of all time for an animated feature.
Animated, okay.
It banked $146 million domestically over 3 days and now sits atop the list of the biggest opening weekends of all films this year. Because with an additional $173 million in earnings from abroad, it leaps Mario at $377 million, landing him in the 4th place among the top 2023 movies. I should add
Leaping and landing.
I'm going to add a sound in there when I say that. You'll see. Thanks, John.
Yeah, the sound noise.
I'll put that back. Hit it. Yeah, and it's about $110 million shy of overtaking Ant-Man and the Wasp, which we talked about as kind of a lukewarm film.
Sure.
That shouldn't be so tough.
Now, John has seen it. Kat and I have not seen it.
Oh, no. Really?
No.
Still haven't managed.
John, we know that on Rotten Tomatoes, it currently holds a 57% with critics and a 96% with audiences, which, I don't know.
Isn't that telling?
I don't know if the critics are children. So that's probably the biggest discrepancy there.
Yeah.
In a 2-star review, NME wrote, quote, to paraphrase one of the title character's catchphrases, it's a mediocre.
That feels like a reviewer who had that in the chamber and was going to use it no matter how good the film was.
Yes.
It's like, I've got my review ready.
When it was announced.
It's a mediocre. No. I was actually at a great deal of trepidation going into this.
Yeah.
Not because I thought it would be bad, but I was expecting it to be more Illumination fare with like Minions and Gru and this kind of stuff, which is lots and lots of fart jokes and potty humor.
Right.
And maybe they're going to slap a coat of Mario paint on it and it was going to be that. And it wasn't that. Everything you've heard is probably right, but none of those things add up to a bad movie. Did it have a paper thin plot? Yep. Was it a bunch of fan service? Yep. Was it things from the games put on the screen? Yep. All those things are true. But I grinned and laughed throughout the film. I enjoyed it because they did it in such a way that it didn't feel pandering any more than I wanted to be pandered to in the first place. So,
okay. All right. Awesome.
So, yeah.
I definitely want to see it based on your appreciation of it.
Yeah. I would see it again. Call me when ready to go. I'll go again.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Very good. The biggest lingering question for me is the voice. How did you think, did the Chris Pratt voice work for you?
So I only paid attention to it in the opening. So the way that they handled this is Charles Martinet is in the film as the voice of Mario's father.
Oh. Okay.
And in the beginning, they are Mario brothers who have a plumbing business. And so the super high pitched Mario voice, that is an affect they put on for the commercial for their business. But their real voice is the ones you hear, Chris Pratt and everyone. And I think I listened to it at the beginning because I thought I'd be distracted. But Mario talking is not the centerpiece of this movie. It's Mario jumping and Mario running and Mario driving and Mario punching. And every once in a while you get a grunt or a line, but it didn't call attention to itself, and it just faded away after the first few minutes for me.
So Chris Pratt didn't have to do very much, it sounds like.
Not much. Yeah, not much.
All right.
What you heard in the trailer is about what it is all the way through, and it fades into the background to the rest of the movie.
I was going to share with you guys a couple of weeks ago the story. It was actually someone chronicled the the evolution of Chris Pratt's comments regarding the voice as he's been asked about it since it was announced he was doing it.
Really?
And how his responses have changed. And by the end, it changed in the sense that, he's sort of very enthusiastic at the beginning, and by the end, he's just so tired of answering his questions.
Just leave me alone. Just wait till you see it.
But at some of the different points, maybe towards the beginning when he still had more energy about it, it was about, I can't wait for people to hear it. We tried so many things. I really worked on developing a backstory that lends itself to the voice. I can't imagine Chris Pratt sounding any other than Chris Pratt.
Right.
It's Chris Pratt with just a little bit of a Chris Pratt every now and then.
Chris Pratt.
Instead of jumping in the pipe, you're going to jump into the pipe, right? It's just every once in a while you get a little one of those little flourishes, but otherwise it's just Chris Pratt. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And did he say, maybe this is too much of a spoiler, did he say the thing?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay. All right. We'll have to see it. All right. Thank you. That gets too much spoiler. Hey, what we do know about the film, though, in addition to John's review here, which is other than blah, blah, blah. So we know there's no romance in it.
Right. I didn't hear anything about blah, blah, blah.
They wasted no time with a B plot of romance.
Yes.
That's right.
So we know that his John Foolery review is, it's all about the action of the film. And everything.
It does sound like he was sitting in the theater.
Waiting. Oh, yeah. What was he waiting for? A fart?
He was waiting for the fart.
Yeah. Which is funny because he just said he was worried they put a coat of paint on the farts. Whatever.
No.
It wasn't there. He was waiting for it.
The Mario paint drowned out all the farts. It was actually a non-toilet humor.
Why was he waiting for a fart? Because of the Minions thing? Did you say that before? Is that what that was?
He misspoke. One time talking about a movie.
I said something right. Waiting for the fart where.
Waiting for the part where, yeah. Waiting for the fart, right. Well, okay. Well, what we do know, and something else that we know in addition to in addition to John's review, is that The composer of the score was a gentleman named Brian Tyler, who also wrote the music for Fast and Furious and Iron Man 3. Okay. He worked closely with the Mario composer Koji Kondo to incorporate classic themes from the games into the film. So not only do you have these visual things, like John said, stuff from the game is there, little visual, little audio rather, Easter eggs are sort of, laced throughout the film. And to hear him tell the story, it sounded like really fun for him and the original composer to discover ways of doing this. You know?
And the more you pay attention to musical scores, the more you hear those just little themes that are woven into the existing background music. You're like, oh, that's the theme from this or from this. Even if you don't know it, you feel it in your bones. Like, I feel I played that game.
Oh, that's so cool.
One of them he referred to as something like taking some music from a selection screen, like a menu basically, and sticking it in a part of the movie.
Very cool.
He told Screen Rant that, quote, there are hundreds, I think, of references in the music that reference the game, but it's an original score, end quote. And in keeping with the retro source of the film, you can add a physical copy of the soundtrack to your collection. The physical distributor I Am 8-Bit has partnered with Nintendo, Illumination, and Universal Pictures to reveal a series of products very familiar to our generation, because you can get the soundtrack with Brian Tyler's score on a two record LP exclusive colorway, they're saying. And the jacket really looks fantastic. The album covers It's like the images from the film or the posters, sort of very colorful.
That's right. Yeah. It looks like poster art. Yeah.
You can get a 7-inch offering or a 2-disc CD and even a cassette. And you actually seem pretty reasonably priced. You can get a 2-disc CD for $20 or the cassette for $20. That seems unheard of.
I often wonder.
Wow.
Like now when people buy vinyl, I think that record players are pretty ubiquitous in most people's homes now. If they're music aficionados, I've gone back and got a good turntable because now I get vinyl. You can buy the cassette and maybe never know what's on it, because does anybody sell cassette players anymore? Unless you just go like is it vintage, you got to go to Goodwill to find them. I don't see people selling cassette players.
I mean, you get those Bluetooth boomboxes like I have, but But I know what you're saying. Do they sell do they sell like you're saying? You have a equivalent of a quality turntable, a quality. Because that's probably a misnomer right there, a quality cassette deck, right? I mean,
maybe, it's
an oxymoron, as they say. Yeah.
I loved my.
Is that a cassette deck pun? Like you put an oxy in there because it's one of the tape coatings, and that was meta.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Eep.
Yes.
Ooh. Yeah.
You still have your cassette player, Kat, right?
No, I don't have my original. It got destroyed in a hurricane.
Oh wow.
Oh,
is there anything more 80s than that?
Yeah.
A lot of my stuff got destroyed in various hurricanes.
I think the only cassette player I have left is actually a cassette digitizer. That's a glorified Walkman that has a USB plug. So you can rip a cassette to digital. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Yep. Exactly.
While not included on this soundtrack, at least, there's a bunch of tracks from our youth scattered throughout the movie too.
Yes.
John confirmed for us. Including Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler, Take On Me by A-ha, Thunderstruck, AC/DC, No Sleep Till, Brooklyn, Beastie Boys, and Mr. Blue Sky from ELO. All songs I love.
I heard people complaining about the fact that they were using 80s music inside of the Mario game like it didn't fit in there. First of all, those people are full of shit. But assuming you had a leg to stand on, each time it came on, the thing about these great tracks is they come with predisposition as to what's about to happen, what kind of excitement, what kind of energy is happening. When the Beastie Boys, No Sleep Till Brooklyn came in, they were in Brooklyn, right? Because it was when they're in the real world and they're in New York and they're getting busy doing the work they're going to do. I'm like, oh, this is like, you feel hyped up because that song brings with it a certain energy. And I thought it was used to great effect. I don't know why people were upset that I guess because it wasn't Mario chiptunes, but they were great.
That's why he got a 56% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's abysmal.
I think John had that loaded as well, just like that critic.
Oh, yes, I think he might have,
hey, in other 1980s news, per The Hollywood Reporter, Stranger Things animated series coming to Netflix. So among the... Do you already have a comment, John?
I'm just excited. Go. I'm excited. Sounds great.
So last Monday, Netflix announced a straight-to-series order. So they must be excited, too, because they announced a straight-to-series order for an untitled animated series set within the Stranger Things universe. Now, plot details are being kept under wraps, though creators Matt and Ross Duffer said it would be in the vein of, quote, Saturday morning cartoons, unquote.
I'm just picturing a whole lot of Scooby-Doo vibe.
Exactly. I want that crazy low frame rate, thick black lines, flat-filled colors, Stranger Things.
Right.
Yep.
And the Duffer Brothers are the people who would actually bring it to us. I think that has so much potential. If it's any higher res than that, they've missed.
I agree.
Yes.
The repeating background.
Super Friends.
Yeah.
Yes. Super Friends plus He-Man.
Walking music.
Yeah.
Occasional shading errors,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They forgot to color a cell in or something.
Or the most damning one, which is like the whole scene is a certain color and the part that's moving is clearly painted in a brighter color.
Yes,
it's like, I see what's going to move now.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Like, do all that. Make it look like an old Star Trek animated series. Like that kind of like, oh, man.
Yeah,
Can't wait.
I was immediately thinking about the Dungeons and Dragons animated series as another kind of fantasy
Same
thing
idea.
We talked about. That was short lived and didn't get as much out of it as I had hoped as a kid.
Just copy any Filmation production. Go.
Oh yes,
I mean, exactly.
I even want to hear that little whatever it is.
I hope.
It's unclear if any of the flagship show's beloved cast will be voicing any characters, but we don't even know which characters will be on it. But the Duffer Brothers will also exec produce the series along with their Stranger Things collaborator, Sean Levy. So that's good news. To John's point, we know we can trust these guys. Every season is, for the most part, it's a consistent quality. So we shouldn't suspect anything else. The Duffers released this statement saying, quote, "We've always dreamed of an animated Stranger Things in the vein of the Saturday morning cartoons that we grew up loving. And to see this dream realized has been absolutely thrilling. We couldn't be more blown away about what the animators have come up with."
That's the part that gives me the most hope. Every time they talk about it, they go, in the style of animation Saturday morning, in the style. Like they're hitting that hard. So that's clearly not an afterthought.
Yeah. And I don't think it matters what characters they use.
Nope.
And there's so many to choose from.
Right.
It'll hit.
Well,
Hit it.
It'll hit it. In addition to the animated series that we can that we're longing for now, the upcoming 5th and final season is yet to hit Netflix. But we also talked recently about the London stage show, Stranger Things: The First Shadow, that we've got. We don't know what that's going to be about. I mean, we do know what it's going to be about. I guess we don't know. We haven't seen it yet. Obviously, what's to come.
Yeah.
It's an earlier,
and they have
prequel.
They have yet another untitled live action spin-off of the show in the works. Outside the franchise, speaking of the 1980s, the Duffers are also tackling Stephen King and Peter Straub's 1984 novel, The Talisman, which I never finished. I remember my dad read it, and I started reading it. And between what I read and my dad told me, sounds like it's perfect for them. It would be a fantastic thing to come to life.
Okay.
In other 1980s news, Indiana Jones show canceled as Lucasfilm dials back non-Star Wars content. Now, look, in a few moments, you're going to hear me in one way or another. We don't know what level it'll be, going on some kind of tirade about, bullshit nonsense from Doomcock and the likes and his ilk. But I can't wait. So when I read this to you, I'm going to draw a distinction in what I'm about to say, because this first sentence is going to already set up flags for you guys. According to trusted industry insider Jeff Snyder, I didn't say what, I guess one of our, what is it, trustworthy, reliable sources?
Trusted, yeah.
Anyway, this is a gentleman who used to work for Variety. Anyway, now he writes for some other folks, including Above the Line and the Hot Mic. Anyway, he reports that the Indiana Jones series that we heard teased in November of last year is no longer moving forward at Disney Plus. So last year in Variety had reported that Lucasfilm was looking to develop a new live-action Indiana Jones series. And while no details were provided, there was a lot of speculation that it would be a prequel to avoid any kind of, having to replace Harrison Ford type issues. And it would focus on the exploits of Abner Ravenwood, Indy's mentor and Marion's father. He would be the stand-in. Because as we know, he was an archaeologist and Indiana Jones supposedly learned a lot from him. So it kind of made sense. Some hopefuls, including me, and probably not John, were thinking that since they've canceled the series, maybe it was because it's tied to the recent resurgence of original Temple of Doom actor Kiwi Kwan, who just won his first Academy Award for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
But according to Snyder, the Walt Disney Company itself told Lucasfilm that they should focus entirely on Star Wars merchandising, movies, TV shows, everything. And that might be why the show is canceled.
So we had the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Yeah.
And now if you want to bring in Kiwi Kwan, I think it's the Kiwi Quanticles. I think it writes itself, really.
It can't be the young Kiwi Kwan. We need the same amount of beats there.
The young Kiwi Quanticles. There we go. It's all done.
But he's old. So the old Kiwi Quanticles.
That wascally
But he's old.
Kiwi
So they got to recast him so he still doesn't get to be in the thing.
Yeah, there you go. We're looking for a new actor. And this could be the reason why, if they were told to focus on Star Wars, maybe that's why Willow has been quote unquote paused for the moment, if not at all outright canceled.
Right.
But we don't know. The number of upcoming Star Wars projects announced at Star Wars Celebration, though, last week seem to support this theory that, the company is shifting with laser focus on this, giant tentpole IP.
They never learn. They oversaturate Star Wars until people start to go, oh, for crying out loud. I mean, Paramount is learning with Star Trek, like, okay, maybe it's too much. Let's find, we found an equilibrium. We're going to cancel this one and bring this new one on. And I mean, I like Star Wars. I'm not a Star Wars fanatic, but I can't watch all the stuff they put out. Like, it feels like required reading. Like I can't watch Marvel movies anymore because I feel like I missed my homework. I didn't watch all of WandaVision. Now I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Right. Just dropped out of class.
Yeah, exactly. I was just auditing.
Incomplete. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's a little complicated. You disagree? But
it's a lot of Star Wars.
There's plenty of Star Wars content that I have not seen. I don't think I've seen all of the Clone Wars. Yeah. I did see all of Rebels. I didn't see. What's the one that's about the clones? There's
Bad Batch?
One. Yeah. Okay. Haven't seen any of that.
Okay.
Yes, Boba Fett. Yes, Obi-Wan. Yes, Mandalorian. So anyway, my point being, I don't feel like I have to see all of it. It's okay if other people are watching it. I don't have to see it all.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I didn't watch any of those animated things. Well, that's really amazing. I don't know. I've got thoughts about it that are probably beyond the scope of this news story, but so we'll save them for May 4th or something. I don't know. We can talk about that, I guess.
Ooh, yeah.
But speaking of Star Wars Celebration, in addition to the upcoming Star Wars content, which I just mentioned, which includes, by the way, I'm talking about the new other stuff that they're adding already that they've already announced, includes a Mandalorian film that's supposed to sort of bring together the Mandalorian seasons and some of the other ancillary stories and characters. Dave Filoni's going to get directed that, a big screen follow-up.
Ooh,
and there's going to be another, probably, did they say trilogy? There's going to be another series of films set 15 years after the rise of Skywalker. That's going to see the development of another Jedi Order. So the Jedi are going to be coming back, and the person bringing them back is Daisy Ridley's Rey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did not know
They should call it Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. But and then as far as non-Star Wars content announced at the Star Wars Celebration, it also included a presentation for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, where we got to see, I think many of the actors that are going to be in the film. And during that panel, guests were treated to the first official trailer for the upcoming sequel, which was also posted online.
They did that at the Star Wars Celebration? They had an Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
While we have your attention, nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Star Wars only! Ah! They're flipping stuff over, hitting each other with plastic lightsabers.
Avert your eyes.
Yeah. The footage was presented by, in fact, at the Star Wars Celebration, the footage was presented by the director, James Mangold, and one of the stars, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. We get a better understanding, I think, what's going on. Probably not any surprises, but what did you guys think?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It made me more excited to see the movie.
I watched it more than one time.
Yeah.
I love the opening.
He's jumps up the chair.
When the music starts, he jumps out of his
seat. Gets jolted by the Rolling Stones, yeah.
By the Rolling Stones, yeah.
The breadcrumbs that they kind of sprinkle with this trailer makes me wonder, Will, whether or not your two opposing takes on time travel,
I only have one take.
Somewhere. Yeah. No, whether or not we fall somewhere in the middle. Because initially you're like, there's no time travel.
Right.
And then you're like, there is time travel.
Yeah.
Right.
And it almost like time travel. The reason I wanted to believe there's no time travel is because it feels so out of place in this very grounded adventure story.
Right.
But I wonder if it isn't time travel as we think of it. But the way they talk about it in the trailer is that it has the ability to change things that have happened. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I corporeally will be existing in a different time, but rather by doing something with this and, sprinkling the right, eye of newt and dust of frog or whatever, that I can change things that have happened as if you had time traveled. So I get that feeling. So again, I know what's going to happen. It's going to be July. You're going to take a sample of me saying this to make fun of me being wrong. But I'm still saying.
I wouldn't do that to you.
Bullshit. You've done it multiple times.
I wouldn't do it about this. Only because I could very well be on that. And that's predicament as well. Right.
And so what I'll do is take a sample of you saying you won't do it when you do it and play it back to you.
What's Kat going to do?
I'm just going to finish having my hot flash because that's what's happening right now.
Wow. She will guffaw. Oh,
yeah, and I'll guffaw, yeah.
John, that's ultimately where I settled. But I guess to add to that, because I hadn't thought about what you're saying. I think that's pretty cool because I do think it can't be in a sci-fi way. I agree in that regard. And that concept of time travel, like you and I are both big fans of time travel. I've consumed a lot of it. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a sort of an example we could think of that's like that, but that's a really fascinating way of thinking of it. That no one actually steps through a time portal and is, in a different era.
Yeah.
But I do think my final sort of feeling about this is that, like consistent with the other films, whatever the power is, the way you describe it, or it's different, we're only going to really see it wielded once. It's going to be at the very end, and it's going to kill the bad guy. And that's it. So even if it winds up being more fantastical than what you're saying, which is a better or cooler idea, we're not going to see people time hopping. Someone's going to open a portal. Someone's going to step through it. They're going to age instantly 100 years, like in, Last Crusade, and they're going to drop dead.
I got to say, I don't even care how it's presented. I'm just excited to see the movie.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Whatever they do with time travel.
Yeah.
And I may or may not understand. I might not be able to wrap my head around it because that's a tricky thing to contemplate. Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess consistent with the time travel notions, the Nazi character played by Mads Mikkelsen, which I learned you don't actually pronounce it Mads in his native tongue. I don't remember how. I think it's more like Mads Mikkelsen, but nobody says that. Mads Mikkelsen says, his character says, Hitler made mistakes, and with this, I will correct them all. So you're right. It doesn't sound like he necessarily has to go back and say, Hitler, don't do that.
Yeah.
You should keep being a painter. There wasn't like that kind of thing.
There were a couple lines in this trailer that led me to believe that that's how it was going to be used. We shall see.
Well, the film, which Ford swears will be his last in the franchise, maybe we'll play him that audio when he does another one. Hits theaters June 30th. All right. How's that? Okay, so that was 1980s news. Hey, our independent podcast is brought to you every week by folks just like you. So if you'd like to help us out, please follow us on the podcast platform you're listening to right now. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share an episode on Facebook. All of these actions just take a moment and are 100% free. But if you'd like to chuck in a buck and help us keep publishing the show week after week, please visit us at 1980snow.com/support to find out how you can send us $1 or $2. And thank you so much. It means a lot. Okay, look, as I mentioned, I had already been developing in this episode to talk about Kathleen Kennedy for a while, and slowly, and quite honestly, I've been slow walking it because I've had this fantasy of being able to interview her. Now, she doesn't do a lot of interviews at all.
But she doesn't.
Very few.
Do they know who you are?
No, of course not.
Oh.
Okay. Do you know who I am? No, I don't.
That's the problem.
Yes. Well, give me some time. Get to know me. Are you free for lunch?
Have Ernie Hudson call her people.
Yes.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Who do I know that knows somebody that knows somebody?
Does Dee Wallace know her?
Oh, yes. They work together on ET.
Yeah.
Oh, nice cat. Oh, I love this idea.
You've got it
Anyway, I know I'm never going to interview her, so that's fine.
Aww.
And look, she probably has every right or every reason to be. She doesn't need to do interviews. That's the bottom line. But also, if I were her, and I'm not, and she's probably a person, she's clearly a person who rises above these things more than I do, and in that regard, maybe more thick-skinned and level-headed, and well measured in this way. Why expose yourself to someone who might be some kind of asshole toxic man who's going to ask her dumb questions about question number 1, why did you ruin Star Wars?
Let me mansplain why you wrecked it.
You might say something about beauty standards.
Yeah.
How she's breaking them. And,
yeah.
Perhaps she could have a hot flash live on the show.
Oh,
all right. This is now sounding sexist, John. Too far. You gonna say something about her headlights going out or whatever? Don't shake your head. No,
you did that.
I know. I said blinker only because you said headlights.
No,
I think I said
headlights.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
I just went along with the silliness of it. Yeah.
All right, shoot. Now I know why John was upset.
All I said was, ooh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He was looking. Yeah,
that threw me off.
Read into that whatever you want.
So the reason I'm inspired, I suppose, is not the right word. But what's the word when someone just gets you so pissed off you want to do something about it? That's probably not inspired. I guess we could say inspired.
Enraged?
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like that motivates you to do anything, right?
Oh,
it's like inspired, but for a negative reason is the word. I don't know. I'm sure the Germans have a word for it that's really long and sounds.
There's got to be a
angry.
word for it. Yeah,
they have 7 words for it,
and it probably sounds. Well, the Eskimos, yeah, and the German Eskimos especially.
No, not the Eskimos. They don't have 7 words for inspired but angry.
Oh, they have it for ice or water. Yeah.
Yes,
Ice.
right.
if you want to talk about 1980 snow, they'll have
The Eskimos talk about
hundreds.
Perfect.
Hundreds.
They have 1,980 ways of saying snow. Anyway, so look, what happened is, as we just were talking about Star Wars Celebration, someone who appeared there, of course, is the president of Lucasfilm herself, Kathleen Kennedy. And among the announcements she made, like I just mentioned, also included the fact that beyond the 3 films that she oversaw at her reign at Lucasfilms, she said there's going to be 3 more. So, man, this just pissed off a lot of incels, and they're going bananas. And so these people who
have to watch them.
So I just wanted to provide some counter programming to that because I feel protective and not necessarily of her, but there's probably some.
So Will's going to give us the vol cell perspective.
The what?
Vol cell voluntarily celibate?
Yeah, there's the
vol cell.
Right, you counter programming to the incels.
Yes, right.
Okay.
I'm going to make a proclamation right now that the reason I don't have sex is because I choose not to, and that's fine.
Vol and cell, maybe vol.
Yeah,
you want to get the
right. I'd make the same statement, but just through the end of this show.
Wait, what?
Thanks for waiting, John.
You're welcome.
It'd be great if 5 minutes and he's like, I blew it. Like, what? Put your hands on the put your hands on the in front of the camera. So look,
what's that buzzing?
We've talked about these people. Is it really buzzing or is this no? It's not real buzzing. We've talked about these people before, whether it's Doomcock or some other jackasses that I just learned about. A lot of their quote unquote, fandom is misogynistic, is toxic, seems more about Kathleen Kennedy as being a woman and less about the decisions that she's made as a business person. And it's just anyway.
It seems like that's the entry point to the criticism, isn't it? Like we start there and then they kind of weave in. Yeah,
whether you look, I could critique the movies. There's certain things I like or don't like, but it's not because she's a woman.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, so
that has nothing to do with it.
Among the, sort of the rage-inducing things on their side, the things that have now set them, into all a flutter in their parents' basement, is one, her mere presence at Star Wars Celebration contradicted one of the oldest lies about Kennedy. That one that began in at least 2017, as far as I can tell, that her termination was imminent.
That's right.
And I just found a new guy on YouTube whose name is Mike Zero, appropriately.
Oh.
Because that's the amount of times he's getting laid.
Well, now you're giving him press. What are you doing, Will? You're giving him a platform.
No, I want him to know. I want these people to know.
Okay.
And our people listening to us know that we know
see
these people.
We see you.
This guy's making up a bunch of bullshit. Holy cow! But he's been saying she's getting fired. He just said it again. She's getting fired. And then she appears at Star Wars Celebration and announces she's doing all these movies. I love it. Fucking idiots.
Well, the thing is, she probably will get fired eventually one day.
I don't think she'll ever get fired.
You don't think she will? Yeah. Well, so if you say something often enough and eventually it happens, like, I told you. I knew it was going to rain. It was just 7 days after I said.
You reminded me of something altogether else. Doomcock, I dipped in to see what he said about the latest trailer of Indiana Jones.
Oh, your buddy? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's pointing out how, look, they changed things. Remember I told you there was going to be these bad things? You could tell they were already changing them because of what I said. Yeah, fucking
because of
yes,
him.
Because of him.
Yes,
yeah.
because
you know what?
yeah.
Anyway, so that's one thing. Another thing they've been saying is that George Lucas is back. He is helping, trying to right the ship, including retconning what happened in Episode 9, the last of the films that we got under Kathleen Kennedy's, work there.
Okay.
No, false. And look, I can tell you what. You don't have to believe me. Again, she just announced 3 new movies she's doing that are coming right off the end of number 9. So,
okay, there you go. Yep.
Another thing they've been saying is that Kennedy, this is a few months ago, just the end of last year, she was told to keep quiet about Star Wars. Stop talking about Star Wars. Well, we just learned Disney told them to focus on Star Wars, and she just announced a shitload of new Star Wars stuff coming out. Dummies. Now, while these things play on their fans' inability to Google anything other than other angry Star Wars nerds.
Right. Other than one another for the echo chamber.
Yes.
Right.
They included among some of their videos that they're saying that I got. So some of the stuff I mentioned from this guy, I think his name's Mike Zero. But these other guys called, I think they're called Geeks and Gamers. And we know gamers do not have a good reputation for being, feminists.
Okay. Mm-hmm,
But the 2 things that I saw them outraged or you're saying about her recently following Star Wars Celebration are easily refutable. In fact, they include video footage that refutes what they say. And it's like,
oh my, what?
How? And I look at the comments and people are like agreeing with what they just said. So I have an example for you. So
okay,
here's a real easy one. One of the things they said was that's going around is saying that when she appeared at Star Wars Celebration, the audience greeted her with silence. And you could tell, therefore, that even the audience there, fans like them, do not like her. Here's the introduction of her at Star Wars Celebration.
It's the president of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy.
Wow. I hear a lot of whooping, a lot of cheering.
Admittedly, they're playing music rather loud, but you could hear the applause under there. She had a hold for it before she could, start speaking.
Now, maybe they were just cheering for John Williams. You don't know.
I guess.
Oh, right, John. They were just excited to hear the music. It had nothing to do with her.
No.
And the Geeks and Gamers also said that this video was all about how angry she got at the interviewer. So she did do an interview in connection with Celebration with IGN, which is a fairly established nerd website and resource. And they said, I'll just play it for you. So I'm going to play for you first her getting asked a question, and then I'll play for you them, giving some color commentary about her response.
Okay.
So here's Kathleen Kennedy being asked, I think, first about some of the Star Wars projects that were announced at last Celebration never came to fruition. So what became of those? Well, they shelved, I think the interview says.
Do you know that there are some that have been shelved?
Well, they haven't been shelved. Most things haven't been shelved. Development is a complicated, long-term process. Some people, we're dealing with scheduling because obviously really talented people are working. So we don't, it's often not a shelving. It's just, is it ready?
And this is what it sounded like to the geeks.
She got pissed. She got pissed. Yeah, she didn't like that question.
What?
Did she seem pissed? First of all, did she seem pissed?
Well, first, she didn't seem pissed.
No.
And if she was, what would that be? What is that evidence of?
Right. But she just sounded like she was clarifying.
I would say she was seriously correcting.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like she felt attacked or she was defending herself. She's
Right.
I think she was informing someone who doesn't understand how the business works, and she's right.
Yeah.
Like I have YouTube videos that I've been planning for 2 years and haven't done them yet because I need stuff. I'm working on stuff, or it's on the back burner because I'm doing something else. That's how everything works in media.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I'm pissed.
that sounds pissed. Yes.
Go, John. Go, John.
And then in the second clip, she's asked about what became of Kevin Feige directing a Star Wars film.
Kevin Feige's project was something announced in the press, or I suppose fandom, but there was nothing ever got developed.
Right.
You see her. She has an open expression. She's smiling. She seems genuine. And
Kevin's a huge Star Wars fan. And, if he did come up with something, I would be all ears, but that's never really happened. So it's not an abandoned project. Right. It just didn't happen.
And this is how they heard it.
She really wants to push back on that stuff. You know what I mean? It's clear that these questions really fucking bothered her.
Yes.
Like, she got very upset.
What?
So, I mean, and these two idiots are playing the clips. And in the comments, they're like, yeah, they got to her. She's mad. She's lying. She's so... You saw it, people.
And again, what if she was upset?
Yeah, but even
who cares?
But even still,
I mean, yes, you're mischaracterizing the reaction.
Yeah.
But let's say you weren't.
Yeah.
Was she's not entitled to be upset with an intervieer over dumb questions? Or, not that these were dumb questions, but what if they were? If you'd been upset.
Look, I'm not a woman, but it reminds me of that thing that what I hear say about how women have to be like flat emotionally, otherwise they're overreacting.
It's mischaracterized.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're excited, you're hysterical. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Whatever.
Oh my.
Anyway, to your point, John, about you had stuff that's still in development and not quote shelved. These are YouTube guys too. So my thought is look.
but if your content is just reaction dissing, there's not a lot of preparation needed. So you don't have to shelve things. Yeah. Those projects are easy to do.
Right. Yeah.
And probably like Doomcock, these two jackasses and that Zero dude. They just do it because they know they can get revenue off the backs of the emotional responses of these men.
And they're right.
That's it. That's target.
I guess I'm the idiot for not doing it since it generates revenue. Right?
Yeah. Well, no, John. The reality is obviously you understand there's larger social implications for just lying to people about others just to make money. Anyway, all right. So these two dudes who
integrity.
Yeah, integrity. There you go. So all these jackasses have several thousand followers too, of course. But they don't have what Kennedy has, which is a list of movies that are both impressive in terms of box office and prestige. I mean, an unassailable track record. As I teased earlier, she's produced, sometimes in collaboration with others, over 60 films, the total of which have earned over $11 billion worldwide.
With a B, billion.
Among those films include the 5 of the 50 top grossing films in motion picture history. So 10% of those films are her ones that she produced. Together, her movies have earned more than 120 Oscar nominations. She's received 8 Oscar nominations as producers for films nominated for Best Picture.
Wow.
Which is the third greatest number of nominations behind Spielberg and producer Scott Rudin.
Wow.
As a producer, she's third behind only Kevin Feige and Spielberg in terms of domestic box office receipts, with over $7.5 billion as of 2020. She received the Irving G. Thalberg Award for the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences in 2018. I mean, fucking YouTubers, shut up. You don't know shit about anything. And look, it could be that they just want to make money. I get that, but the losers that follow them, it's not that for them. They don't see it that way.
Right? Exactly. They're sucked in, and
It's that echo chamber bubble that we talked about a few episodes back.
Yeah.
If someone has a predisposition to believe something, if they find someone that reinforces it, then they consume that. They inundate themselves in someone that agrees with them. I've had some listeners to the Gen X Grown Up podcast recently go, yeah, we're not listening anymore because you mentioned something about politics. Well, invariably it's they heard something they didn't agree with and their viewpoint could not sustain opposing viewpoints.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what people do in these echo chambers of, well, I found somebody that hates Kathleen Kennedy as much as I do. Great. And you watch somebody that likes them, they're like, oh, I'm not going to watch that again. Right.
So that's garbage.
It's far too easy to reinforce your own beliefs that might be based on fallacies.
Yeah.
I agree.
And if we've got listeners like that, get out. We don't want you.
Exactly.
Right. You can disagree.
Yes.
But like if your beliefs cannot withstand opposing viewpoints, maybe you should check out what's going on with your beliefs.
Well, and you make me think. And again, I think these guys are putting it on, which makes them more evil than just being misogynists. But if these guys sincerely believe that is a person being angry, this generation, and these are younger kids than us, they are fucking super soft I mean, who raised them?
Right.
We were talking about how we ruin this generation of kids.
But I need a mental health day. I feel attacked.
Yeah, I mean, jeez. They wouldn't have survived in my house.
You raised your voice slightly at me.
But anyway, and
it's irresponsible. Yeah. It's just irresponsible of them. It really is.
Curiously or interestingly enough, because I think it's easy to think about somebody now as, look, she's in charge of Lucasfilm, which is one of the most well-known brands, certainly one of the world's largest, holder of the world's largest single IP, Star Wars. I don't know. I mean,
probably, yeah.
But and that doesn't include Indiana Jones and the other things that Lucasfilm directed, which she also is in charge of, and she's also in charge of Industrial Light and Magic. I mean, everything that Lucas developed in there, that's all under her. But she began humbly. She, and interestingly enough, when she ultimately began working in film, she confessed to having looked down her nose at one of the biggest films at the time she started entering the business, which was Spielberg's Jaws, which she regarded as lowbrow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And she has before you think that she's holier than thou, it's because she says, quote, "I was in my 70s cinephile phase. It's so insane," end quote, which a lot of people were in the 70s.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Jaws was a very outside of the box kind of film. It was the first kind of over the top blockbuster kind of thing that I could see how someone, I'm not defending her position. I always liked Jaws, but I also was not a 70s film snob either. I was just a kid who was like, this is sharks eating people. Awesome. Right. So
And the first
and very little of that blah, blah, blah love story wasn't happening in Jaws. Just sharks and barrels. Yes.
It's probably the equivalent of Sharknado, like nowadays, like that's the way maybe it came across back then.
That someone's looking down on Sharknado?
Well, now
that's highbrow stuff, Kat. How dare you?
Well, I mean, as a brief aside to the Jaws thing, I always think of, I think of Spielberg doing Jaws akin to, like Steve Jobs with the iPhone. Steve Jobs always said, people don't know what they want. I'm going to show them what they want. And I think Spielberg did that with Jaws, where people weren't asking for that kind of action and drama and suspense and over the topness in a film. He just did it and said, here's what you want. And he was right, like Steve Jobs was right.
Well, interestingly, in '77, it was her when she saw Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind that confirmed that she wanted to get into the movie business.
Yeah.
And in 1979, she got a job as an assistant to John Milius, who was then working as a producer for Spielberg on one of his few box office bombs, 1941, the film 1941.
Oh, that's too bad.
Okay.
While she was working for Milius during that production, Kennedy caught the attention of Spielberg, who stated in 2015 she was horrible at taking notes. But what she did know how to do was interrupt somebody in mid-sentence. This is feeding all these incels' feelings about women, probably. But we'd be pitching ideas back and forth, and Kathy, who was supposed to be writing these ideas down, would suddenly put her pencil down and say something like, "What if he didn't get the girl, but instead got the dog?" End quote. And so Spielberg soon hired her away from Milius to work for him as his assistant. And soon she was working with Spielberg and Lucas on Raiders of the Lost Ark. Wow. She was an associate to Spielberg on that film. In the following year, she worked as associate producer on Spielberg's production of Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist in 1982.
So far, all flops.
Could you name one we know, Will?
Right.
Well, it was right after her work on Raiders and Poltergeist that Spielberg had planned to do his next film, E.T. At the time, Kennedy was 29, and Steven said, "I think you're ready. Why don't you produce this?"
Wow.
Have you ever heard of Amblin Entertainment?
Maybe.
That little thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that little,
Do you know who Amblin Entertainment is? The three folks who actually formed Amblin Entertainment.
Is it Spielberg?
That's right.
And Kathleen Kennedy?
That's two, yes. And Kathleen Kennedy's husband, Frank Marshall, who was a gentleman she met on the set of Raiders of the Lost Ark, which Marshall was producing.
Wow.
Amblin went on a tear, producing a string of successful films throughout the 1980s, including Gremlins, Back to the Future, The Color Purple. When Kennedy and Marshall got married, one of the few people from outside their families to attend was George Lucas. By the way, just as a side note, amidst doing all this stuff, in 1989, at the age of 36, Kennedy won the U.S. Nationals for her age class in javelin, a sport she just took up a few months before the event.
Seriously?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Just a side note, just to give you an idea of.
Oh my gosh.
It was to defend herself from the trolls.
Yes. They were starting to come out.
Yes, right.
Anyway, I mentioned George Lucas because we could jump. We'll just leap forward. It's no question when you consider her body of work. And again, look, I got a list here from the 1980s. So I'll rifle through these ones real quick here. We mentioned Poltergeist DT, Twilight Zone. Okay, that was somewhat of a dud. She was a producer. Temple of Doom. Gremlins, The Goonies, Back to the Future, Young Sherlock Holmes, The Color Purple, The Money Pit, An American Tale, Inner Space, Empire of the Sun, Batteries Not Included, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Land Before Time, Back to the Future 2, and Always. And throughout these films, she was either an associate producer, executive producer, or sometimes she was a co-executive producer.
You know the thread that runs through all of those films is that there's not a thread that runs through all of those films. It's not just a one note like, oh yeah, you can do space movies, but can you do this? I mean, there's some social commentary films in there. There's some animation. There's comedy. There's action. It's all in there.
Yeah.
It's a wide variety.
That is quite a palette.
Well, I think it's this look. It's no surprise that based on that history and her work with Lucas in particular throughout the years and Spielberg, that Lucas in 2012 called her for a lunch that she thought was just simply to catch up. But it was during this meeting that he told her that he was thinking about stepping down and was looking for a replacement. At which she started brainstorming of, someone that could help.
Oh.
And Lucas responded immediately, no, I'm thinking about you doing this.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
She was taken aback, but quickly came around. After telling Lucas she may be interested, she said, quote, I immediately felt this sense of responsibility and a sort of feeling that I wanted to do this for him as well as for myself because I knew how important it was to him. End quote. And it was just a few months later that Lucas announced the sale of Lucasfilm to Disney for $4 billion. Now, until Kennedy was brought on, there was no sniff, no whiff of a Star Wars anything new coming in the future. Partly because Lucas got burned by critics and fans alike for the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
And so he got cold feet. And so nobody ever questioned Lucas. It's kind of an emperor's new clothes situation over there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But as soon as Kennedy was hired, staffers began to see it as a sign that there was going to be another Star Wars film. It was inevitable because Kennedy is a consummate movie maker.
Nobody buys that franchise to not make stuff.
Yes.
Right. It's like, we paid all these billions of dollars. What are we going to do with it? Just sit on it.
Look, and speaking of Star Wars, because, these folks who claim that with regard to her, it's two things. Right now, they complain about Indiana Jones and they complain about what she's woke. She's making everything woke. It's first of all, I don't know what the fuck woke means, but it sounds so stupid. Like
I'm proud to be woke. If I understand woke properly, I'm happy to be it.
It's a flag word for changes I don't like.
I mean, you'd rather be awake, generally speaking, right? I guess you're tired. You want to go to sleep, but if Disney was going to go woke and go broke, as these people, as one of their mantras.
Yeah, clearly that happened.
As far as revenue is concerned, the company's most lucrative area is its media and entertainment business. In 2022, it announced a revenue of $82.7 billion, which was an increase of over $15 billion from the previous year.
So not going broke.
Not bad.
No. Of that revenue, $55 billion was generated by the media and entertainment segment. So no, not only they got no one broke, they're not going broke. They're not going to fire her if they got this track record.
So it's more of a go woke, get stoked. It's like the opposite.
Yes. Hit it.
Anyway, but the other thing that just drives me crazy about these people, again, because, first of all, they're picking on her for Indiana Jones. Shit hasn't even happened yet just because there's a woman in it. And then they pick her on for these other films because they didn't like the way it went. And I have mixed thoughts about those films, but they still made money.
Yeah.
Except for Solo, all the films made money.
And you would think YouTubers that diss people for money would understand the money aspect of why she's not getting fired.
Yeah. Well, and they do, right? That's what makes them really evil.
I guess
that's what you're saying. Yeah.
But again, the people that believe them, and I think about Star Wars. You're supposed to be Star Wars fans. I think about Obi-Wan Kenobi's line in A New Hope. Who is more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him? All of these people are following for these such dumb lines, and again, just another obvious thing, right? They will shit on all the Star Wars films, and an Indiana Jones movie hasn't come out, but they love The Mandalorian. They love Andor. Well, guess what, jackasses? She's the executive producer of all those too. Yes. So what do they say? Yeah, but Jon Favreau's in that one and Dave Filoni's in that one.
Right, because she can't play every single role. So she has people.
So if it's bad, it's her fault. If it's good, it's a man's.
Of course.
To his credit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
John,
that works out.
I was thinking about how John a couple times mentioned gatekeeping and jokingly said, like, maybe I'm gatekeeping you from music, I think last week or something. And something else came up. But I was wondering if and look, I know gatekeeping is generally bad, and I fight that old man sort of thing, being protective of my toys, Yeah. But I feel like, are there circumstances where gatekeeping is good in the sense that why we have bouncers at nightclubs? That you want to keep you want to keep the assholes out.
Well, aren't boundaries important? Yes, in general, having personal boundaries but permeable boundaries are a healthy thing too. Yeah.
It depends upon the motivation of the gatekeeper, really. I mean, if the motivation is to keep the assholes out, well, that's called security.
Okay. Well,
okay.
I mean, the gatekeeping that irritates me is, I'm a fan of Donkey Kong, and if you're not playing it right, don't even put your quarter in. Like, what?
Yeah.
So like, if you don't love this thing the way I love this thing, you're not allowed to love this thing. That's when I say gatekeeping, that's really what I'm talking about. And
that's
of course,
narcissism. Yeah.
With you, I was using it, facetiously, capital F, just like Puff Daddy.
Yes.
That's fish.
But yeah, it's really just, you're not allowed to love it the way you love it because it's not the way I do. Yeah.
I didn't feel gatekeep it actually well.
Yeah. I guess I was just thinking, I know I try to be aware of not gatekeeping because I do sometimes want to be that guy, But I do like in this whole conversation, I feel is intended to be gatekeeping because we don't want those kinds of quote unquote fans because you're not actual fans. If fans would give constructive criticism, I think we need to work on this or this thing and understand and appreciate the various roles, including Kathleen Kennedy, play to get us there or sometimes miss.
You're just working security. You're not gatekeeping.
Okay, there you're very good.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, it's a minority of people. They're just very vocal. And the leaders of these movements are taking advantage of these followers, again, just to get ads.
And I feel they're dealing in deception. And they're not owning up to it. They're not putting anything out there like, by the way, we're just joking. Yep. That bugs me. That really bugs me. Yeah.
And I do come across, some other counter programming, including on Facebook. I found a group called the Jedi Enclave, which in response to, some of the stuff that came out on Star Wars Celebration, they said, like it or not, this is proof that Mike Zero, etc. are liars and nothing is being erased from canon. Never trust sources that attempt to monetize your anger. So look, and I'm glad they call themselves Jedi too, because once again, I'm reminded of another quote, paraphrasing here from Empire Strikes Back, Yoda talking about what leads to the dark side, hate and anger. So if you're really fans of this thing, as you claim you are, check yourselves with your own canon.
Yeah.
Unless they're identifying with being Siths, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case.
Well, I've often heard that nobody loves hating Star Wars more than people who love Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right. Hey, for better or worse, that was the show. No, for better.
Hey.
I thought you were going to give us a quiz when you said, and once again.
Yeah. And once again, I'm like, oh, no.
That's what happened?
I thought John was sweating it. Yeah. I looked down at John. Yeah. And then you just gave us a quote. It wasn't a quiz.
I got off easy.
I got to keep you up.
He didn't get us, Kat.
I got to keep you guessing.
Yeah, that's right. This Quizless show is brought to you every week, thanks in part to our early adopters like Rick Parker, Kathy Burke.
Yep.
Oh, no, I did it wrong.
Are you trying to do your old style again?
I'm trying. No.
Mixing it up or whatever? Thanks
in part. Yeah. I don't have a good system for keeping track here. Thanks in part to our early adopters like Karen Fleeger, Kathy Burke, and Rick Parker.
Hey.
And thanks especially to our Secret of Our Success level Patreon supporters like Brad Bowman, Nick Guillory,
Go, Nick.
Marcus Taylor, Tony Great, Greg Coletta, and John Henderson.
Hey, you finished on John Henderson. I feel like we used to do that. Probably when we had fewer supporters at our Patreon.
I think when he was like
he was the only supporter. Thanks, John, for supporting us for that long. Yeah.
And I didn't get to say his name then, and he's been first for a long time.
Yes, that's right.
Time for him to be last and flourished.
Thank you so much, guys, for helping us be able to literally produce the show week after week. We greatly appreciate it. If you want to support the show, you can do so. You can become a patron supporter and get access to special bonus content, including we just shared a very, personal and intimate discussion about some of the challenges of being a middle-aged person with our patrons. That may become a fuller episode, but
yeah, let's do it.
But you could hear it first.
Yes. Well, yeah, and you won't hear that one unless you're a patron. We'll do some other version where I won't name names like I did.
Right.
But if you don't have the wherewithal to support us monetarily at the moment, you could do many other things, including just write us an email. Send it to me, will@1980snow.com or cat@1980snow.com. Or a post on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And here are some examples right here regarding our 10 most sampled episode, which we published last week. Miss So wrote, Will, I got you, homie. I wear a hoodie, cap, long pants, and socks to bed. But I'm always cold.
Oh.
Even growing up as a kid in Georgia, I was like that. Cat, I don't think I've experienced any actual hot flashes.
Oh, wow.
It's because she's terminally cold, so she's never going to feel it.
Maybe it's impossible. Maybe she will never have to go through that. May that be so. Or maybe she needs a hot flash.
To defrost.
She needs defrosting.
You wouldn't need the hoodie.
Yeah, she could pull the hood down and maybe just take off the socks.
Okay, hey, and also on Instagram, Spun Counter Guy, who's the author of a book set in the 1980s called The 10 Tracks Mixtape Tasks. You should check that out. Writes something. Oh, and he's writing regarding the Secret Cover Songs episode. Yeah. Something John said on this episode reminded me of a story.
Oh.
Many years ago, I was recording at a guy's home studio in East Nashville, and he said, "Let me play you something I made all by myself while my wife was out of town." It ended up being what would become Hayseed Dixie.
Wow!
Isn't that crazy?
Awesome.
I
knew that someone else had heard of it. It couldn't just be me.
The AC/DC cover band that plays at Bluegrass.
Right, the Bluegrass AC/DC cover.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there you go. All right. Hey, thanks for writing it, guys. All right. Hey, we will speak to you. I will be a lot more peaceful. I will do some yoga and meditation. I'll light some incense. When we talk to you next time on 1980s Now.
Until next time.
Goodbye.
This podcast is part of the 80s Ruled Network. Visit the 80s Ruled on Facebook for more 1980s awesomeness.